Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering Encounter 3 of Garden of Salvation for my 3-man series. This part is kind of a beast, not gonna lie. My friends and I had the most difficulty with this part and it still feels like we don't have it mastered at this point. Don't get me wrong, we've got the strategy down to a science, but there's some definite jank that goes down during this encounter. If you can get it right though, beating this encounter is one of the most satisfying as well. There's also a small measure of flexibility which can allow for some clutch situations as well, which is always a lot of fun. Think and act quickly, don't die, and you'll get it in no time. It is still completely doable, and today I'm going to teach you just how exactly you can take down the Consecrated mind with a 3-man fire team. Alright, just to brush up, I do have the same teammates and trusty friends as last time, Guardian Cal and Rabid Hogs, who helped me through the first and second parts as well. When referring to our strategy, I will call them Cal and Hogs, just to make it a little bit easier. So when you're approaching this encounter, you can no longer think of yourself as just being on Eye's team or Gambit team, as many people call them. You will need to fully understand this encounter in each of the two roles so you can complete this encounter, because you will be continuously swapping those roles. I'm assuming you know how this raid works pretty well if you're trying to 3-man it, so I'm not going to take the time to explain the full mechanics right here. Also, Eye's team actually just isn't a team at all. You have to be able to solo it for this strategy to work. So I'd recommend finding a shotgun you like with high handling and give it your best. It's not too hard, it just takes practice, consistency, and a steady hand. Alright, let's get to the actual step-by-step nitty-gritty stuff. You need to designate one person to grab the first 5 motes and bolt to the conflux immediately, since goblins will be arriving quickly. On my team, this was Cal. You'll need to either remember or make up new callouts for whichever conflux lights up at the start of the encounter, so you and your team will know which one to go to. The other person on your team will then wait and grab another 5 motes and head over to that conflux, replacing the first person. In our case, the person picking up the second pair of 5 motes was Hogs. We found picking up 5 here had a better impact on timing than picking up 10. When Hogs replaces Cal here, Cal needs to run back to the middle and do the next set of Eyes. The timing on this is close, and it can be difficult to get back to do Eyes in time, so you should really be communicating here and find a gap where the conflux defender can start running to the middle before the guy with the motes even gets there without losing sacrifices. Vex sacrifices are the absolute bane of these runs, so do everything you can to prevent that from happening. Fortunately, there are significant gaps in the waves here, so it's not too hard to earn some backup time in this way. As for myself, I was following the boss and doing the first batch of Eyes. Generally, I would finish Eyes right around the time that Hogs would be taking his 5 motes to the conflux, which was the second pair. It doesn't take too long to do Eyes, so immediately after doing the Eyes, I would hunt down 2 Minotaurs, grab 10 motes, and take them to the conflux, replacing Hogs. Alright, hopefully you guys are still with me. It's a lot easier after a couple runs and you get some practice and a feel for how things go, but for a little bit of summary, Cal should be doing Eyes right now and then grab his 10 motes. Hog should be running back to the center to do Eyes next, and I'm defending the conflux from incoming Vex. Once Cal comes to the conflux with his 10 motes, that will bring the total to 30, and then that'll start the damage phase. So a question that might be jumping out in your mind, what weapons are we actually using here? That looks a little bit different depending on the team member. Unless I'm completely off here, Divinity is still helping you do more total damage than having that one person focus on DPS. We did still try to maximize here though, and I'll get to that later. In our case, I was the guy running Divinity, and there's actually a very specific reason for this. My team is on Xbox, but I'm the only one with a Series X, which means very fast loading times. In my role, I have to switch between a shotgun and Divinity both right before and after DPS for Eyes, and it's much easier for me to do that and load my menu than my friends playing on previous gen. So if you guys have a similar setup like that, this is something you definitely want to consider. So back to the actual weapons that we're using for DPS, my 2 friends were running slug shotguns and xenophage. Whisper definitely does more damage, but we found there is some jankiness going on occasionally that wouldn't reload the magazine, so we just switched to xenophage for better consistency. Back to the shotgun, if you have one with Vorpal weapon, like first in, last out, that's even better. Make sure you're running boss spec with that as well. What's also great is that shotguns can be used for Eyes as well, so for my other 2 teammates, there's no switching weapons in between DPS involved. Alright, so let's take a step back and take a look at exactly how this DPS phase should go down. Again, you don't have to be playing as the classes that we played as, but we found it to be pretty helpful that one person be a Titan and drop a bubble just behind the conflux while the rest of the team starts clearing out eyes. Right before we shoot the last eye, I will use Top Tree Void Tether on Hunter for the boss for increased damage. So we have a buff and a debuff. Once the eyes are cleared, you can begin damage. The two of you with slug shotguns need to unload as much as you can while the boss is close. Once you start experiencing damage fall off, switch to Xenophage and unload your mag. For me, the Divinity guy, my heavy weapon was the rocket launcher Royal Entry with Clown cartridge. Early on, the tether is active and there's no point in also using Divinity since the tether is the stronger buff and it doesn't stack with Divinity. So the way I start DPS is by firing 2 rockets, thanks to Clown Cartridge, dodge reloading, and firing 2 more. By that time, your teammates have switched to Xenophage, the tether has expired, and you should be switching to Divinity. And unless you're tap firing with Divinity, you're going to have to reload pretty close to the end of the DPS phase, so do your best to time it so that you're reloading in between your teammates reloading Xenophage. However, if you do have 2 Titans in your group, they should definitely be running Actium War Rig to continuously reload Xenophage to use up your DPS. And that is about it, just rinse and repeat. Divinity person needs to switch to a shotgun and chase the boss down immediately because he moves almost instantly after he gets back to the center. It's very quick. But yeah, all that said, if you do everything right, you can pull off a 2-phase kill, which is kinda crazy. We generally do a 3-phase since it's hard to be 100% perfect, but it can definitely be done with this build, and I'm sure there are better loadouts, but this is what worked for me and my friends consistently at least. I really hope that all made sense and helps you get through this in good time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comments and I'd be happy to personally answer them for you. I'm sure there's stuff I missed in here. It's really a great challenge, and if you love raiding, then I'm sure you and your friends will enjoy this most of the time. But before I sign off here and let the gameplay run, I'm going to get into some common problems and my advice for fixing them. The first and probably most common issue that we ran into was that Minotaur spawns are pretty weird. Sometimes they take forever and completely mess up the run. However, I do think that they'll spawn more quickly if you clear out the adds in the middle as soon as you can, so this can be tough to do by yourself, but it'll serve you better in the long run anyway. If you let those adds stack up, they'll straight up murder you, so do yourself a favor and clear out the adds. Second common issue early on was that the buff timer runs out for enlightenment too soon as the Conflux Defender before your ally can bring you more motes. The fix? Don't deposit immediately. The first 5 motes that you bring you have to because the Vex are closing in quickly, and there's also no reason to wait on your final 10 motes, but for the other 2 batches, don't deposit them immediately if there are no Vex close by. Sometimes those extra 5 seconds you get from waiting is enough to make the difference where you'd normally lose sacrifices. Third issue we would run into is not enough time for eyes. Sometimes the Conflux Defender literally can't make it in time to do the eyes. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. People collecting the motes should be very communicative with the Defender, and if there's a gap between Vex so that the Defender can leave early and the guy with motes can get there in time, absolutely go for it. Fourth common problem, not enough ammo for second or third DPS phases. Sometimes you're just unlucky and don't get full ammo in between. If you're finding this to be the case, absolutely use the Voltaic Ammo Collector mod. This is a solar mod for your armor, so keep that in mind. This helps tremendously though, and I think you'll be a little bit shocked just how much it drops. It's kinda crazy. And fifth and final problem we'd be running into is that adds keep mowing down the moat guy in the middle. For this, you really want to just find what space you have left in your loadout after maxing for DPS. Maybe go for Protective Light or an exotic armor piece that heals you or something like that. Even a weapon with Unrelenting now that it's been buffed would be pretty decent. You have to move quickly, but you don't have so little time that you can't take a sec to clear out adds or duck for cover. Also, since everyone on the team has shotguns out at this point, taking down the Minotaur shouldn't be too difficult. Alright, that was a lot, but I hope that all made sense to you. Again, reach out to me if you have questions, but for now, I think I'm going to leave you guys to it. I hope you find this helpful and that you can enjoy this challenge with your friends the same way that I did. If you did enjoy the video, a like or a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.